Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Mastery. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Marcus. Today we have a really exciting topic to discuss.
We do. Today, we're talking about emotions and how to express them in English. Not just happy and sad, but all the incredible words in between.
Exactly. Because let's be honest, how many times have you said, I'm fine, when you're really not fine at all?
All the time. That's actually where we're going to start today. So, Marcus, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like the word happy just wasn't enough to describe how you really felt?
Absolutely. Like when I got my promotion last year. I wasn't just happy, I was over the moon. I was thrilled, ecstatic even.
Perfect example. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. We're going beyond those basic emotional words that we learned in elementary school.
Right, because in real conversations, especially in English, using the right emotional word can make all the difference.
So let's start with a scenario. Imagine someone asks you, "How are you today?" And you automatically say, "I'm fine, thanks." But are you really just fine?
Probably not. Maybe you're exhausted from work. Maybe you're anxious about a meeting tomorrow. Maybe you're content and peaceful after a relaxing weekend.
Exactly. But if you only say fine, the other person has no idea what you're actually feeling. They can't connect with you on a deeper level.
And that's the immediate benefit of having more precise emotional vocabulary. When you can name exactly what you're feeling, you help others understand you better.
You also understand yourself better. There's actually research that shows when you can label your emotions accurately, you can manage them more effectively.
That's fascinating. So let's dive into some specific categories. Chloe, let's start with positive emotions. What are some words for joy that go beyond just happy?
Great question. So happy is our baseline, right? But think about different types of happiness. If you're extremely happy, almost jumping with joy, you might be ecstatic.
Ecstatic. I love that word. Like, I was ecstatic when I found out I passed my exam.
Perfect. And then there's jubilant. That's a formal word that means triumphantly happy. You might use it in writing more than speaking.
So you might say, the team was jubilant after winning the championship.
Exactly. Now, there's also a quieter type of happiness. Have you heard the word serene?
Serene. That's like peaceful happiness, right?
Yes. Serene means calm and peaceful. Like, I felt serene sitting by the lake at sunset. It's not loud excitement, it's gentle contentment.
I like that distinction. So ecstatic is intense and energetic, while serene is calm and peaceful. But they're both types of positive feelings.
Exactly. And there are so many more. You can be delighted, which is pleasantly surprised, or thrilled, which is extremely pleased and excited.
What about when you're just quietly satisfied? Like when you finish a good book.
That's content. Or you could say fulfilled, or even gratified if you're satisfied because you've accomplished something.
This is great. Okay, now let's talk about the other side, sadness. Because sad is such a simple word for such a complex emotion.
Oh, absolutely. Sadness has so many layers. Let's start with melancholic. Have you used that word before, Marcus?
I've heard it, but I'm not sure I'd use it naturally. What does it mean exactly?
Melancholic is a thoughtful, deep sadness. It's almost poetic. It's when you're sad, but in a reflective way. Like, I felt melancholic looking through old photographs.
Ah, so it's not just sad, it's sad with a kind of beauty to it.
Yes, exactly. Now, if someone is deeply sad and has lost hope, they might be despondent.
Despondent. That sounds more serious.
It is. Despondent means you're in low spirits because you've lost hope or courage. After losing his job, he felt despondent about the future.
And what about when someone experiences a major loss, like a death in the family?
That's when you might use grief-stricken. That's overwhelming sadness due to loss. It's a very heavy, intense word.
So we have melancholic for thoughtful sadness, despondent for hopeless sadness, and grief-stricken for sadness from loss.
Exactly. And there are others too. You can be dejected, which means sad and disappointed, or forlorn, which is pitifully sad and lonely.
Wow, English really has a word for every shade of sadness. Now, let's talk about anger, because I think that's where people often struggle the most.
Oh, definitely, because anger is such a strong word, and not every situation calls for it. Sometimes you're just mildly irritated, you know?
Right, so what's the spectrum? Let's start from the mildest form.
Okay, so the mildest would be annoyed. That's when something bothers you, but it's not serious. I was annoyed when my neighbor played loud music.
Then maybe frustrated? That's when you can't achieve what you want?
Perfect. Frustrated is when you're annoyed because you can't do something or solve a problem. I felt frustrated trying to assemble the furniture without instructions.
What's the next level up?
Then we have irritated or aggravated. These are a bit stronger than annoyed. You're becoming genuinely bothered.
And then angry?
Yes, angry is the standard. But if you're extremely angry, you could be furious or infuriated.
Infuriated. That's intense. Like, I was infuriated when I discovered someone had lied to me.
Exactly. And then there's enraged, which is violently angry. That's the most extreme.
Wow. So we go from annoyed to frustrated to irritated to angry to furious to enraged. That's quite a scale.
And there's also resentful, which is a bitter, long-lasting anger. It's when you feel angry about something unfair that happened in the past.
So resentful is less about intensity and more about duration.
Exactly. You might say, she felt resentful toward her colleague who took credit for her work.
This is incredibly helpful. But Chloe, knowing all these words is one thing. Actually using them correctly is another. How do we know when to use which word?
That's a great question, and it brings us to our next point. Context is king. The word you choose should match your listener and the situation.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you're unhappy about a decision at work. If you're talking to your boss, you might say, I'm concerned about this decision, or I'm disappointed with this outcome.
But if you're talking to your friend after work?
You might say, I'm so frustrated, or this really upset me. You can be more emotional and direct.
So with your boss, you're more measured and professional. With friends, you're more open and expressive.
Exactly. And this applies to positive emotions too. At work, you might say, I'm pleased with the results. But to your friend, you'd say, I'm thrilled.
That makes sense. What about intensity modifiers? You mentioned those earlier.
Yes, these are words that show how strong your emotion is. For example, slightly annoyed versus extremely annoyed versus utterly furious.
So you can fine-tune your message even more.
Exactly. You can say a bit disappointed, quite disappointed, very disappointed, or devastatingly disappointed.
Let's do some practical examples. How would you use the word ecstatic in a sentence?
I was absolutely ecstatic when I found out I got accepted to my dream university.
Nice. What about melancholic?
Watching the sunset alone made me feel melancholic, thinking about old friends I hadn't seen in years.
Beautiful. And resentful?
He felt resentful toward his brother, who had always been their parents' favorite child.
These are great. Now, here's something I find really important. How does having this richer vocabulary help us understand other people better?
Oh, that's crucial. When you understand these subtle emotional words, you can recognize what others are feeling more accurately.
Can you explain what you mean?
Sure. Imagine your friend says, "I'm feeling a bit melancholic today." If you only know sad, you might respond, "What's wrong? What happened?"
But if you understand melancholic,
You'd know they're in a reflective mood, not necessarily because something bad happened. So you might say, "Want to talk about it? Or would you prefer some quiet company?"
so you can respond more appropriately to their actual emotional state.
Exactly. And this is what we call empathy. It's about recognizing and validating someone's feelings.
Validating. That means showing them their feelings are acceptable and understood?
Yes. When someone shares a complex emotion with you, acknowledging it specifically makes them feel truly heard.
Can you give me an example of validation?
Sure. If someone says, "I feel so despondent about my job search," you could respond, "I can understand why you'd feel despondent. It must be really draining to keep applying and not hear back."
Instead of just saying, "Don't be sad."
Exactly. "Don't be sad" dismisses their feelings. Acknowledging their despondency validates it.
That's a powerful difference. So, mirroring someone's emotional language helps build stronger connections?
Absolutely. It shows you're really listening and you understand the nuance of what they're experiencing.
This is so valuable. Okay, so we've learned all these amazing words, but how do we actually integrate them into our daily vocabulary? I don't want to just know them, I want to use them naturally.
Great question. And I have some very practical steps for you. First, start with an emotional journal.
An emotional journal? What's that?
Every day, write down how you're feeling, but challenge yourself to use these more specific emotional words instead of basic ones.
So instead of writing, "I had a good day," I might write,
"I felt content and fulfilled today after completing my project." Or, "I was delighted when my friend surprised me with coffee."
I like that. What else?
Second, when you're reading or watching English content, pay attention to emotional vocabulary. When you see a new word, write it down with the sentence it was used in.
So I'm learning from context.
Exactly. Context is the best teacher. You'll see how native speakers use these words naturally.
What's the third step?
Practice with a friend or language partner. Describe your week to each other using varied emotional vocabulary. Make it a game.
Oh, that sounds fun. Like, don't just say you were happy about something. Tell me if you were ecstatic, thrilled, or content.
Exactly. And the fourth step is to read your emotional vocabulary out loud. Practice saying these words so they feel natural in your mouth.
because sometimes we know a word, but we're not comfortable saying it.
Exactly. Saying "I felt despondent" should roll off your tongue as easily as "I felt sad."
These are really actionable steps. What about people who feel overwhelmed by all these new words?
Start small. Pick 3 new emotional words this week. Use them in conversation or writing. Next week, add 3 more.
So it's gradual, not all at once.
Exactly. Language learning is a journey, not a race.
The goal isn't to memorize 100 words overnight. It's to slowly expand your emotional toolkit.
I love that phrase, emotional toolkit, because that's really what it is, right? Tools to help you express your inner world.
Yes, and the more tools you have, the more precisely you can communicate who you are and what you're experiencing.
This has been such a valuable conversation, Chloe. Before we wrap up, do you have any final encouragement for our listeners?
I do. Remember, every native English speaker started with basic emotional vocabulary too. We all said happy and sad as children.
And we expanded our vocabulary through reading, listening, and practicing?
Exactly. So be patient with yourself. Celebrate every time you use a new word successfully. And don't worry about making mistakes.
Right, because mistakes are part of learning.
Absolutely. If you say, I'm feeling melancholy when you meant melancholic, it's okay. People will understand and you'll learn from it.
And honestly, most native speakers will be impressed that you're using such sophisticated vocabulary.
That's true. So keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep expressing your authentic emotions.
Because at the end of the day, language is about connection. And when you can articulate your feelings clearly, you connect more deeply with others.
Beautifully said, Marcus. All right, everyone, that's our episode for today. We hope you feel inspired to expand your emotional vocabulary.
Try the Emotional Journal Challenge this week. Track your feelings with specific words and see how it changes your awareness.
And as always, keep learning, keep growing, and keep expressing yourself.
Thanks for listening to English Mastery.
We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.